Welcome to your Tiny Tiger and Little Dragon tutorial videos. In this video, we're going to be explaining how do we advance and rank, what are we looking for, kind of setting you guys up for proper expectations. So as you're looking in your karate journal, you'll be able to see what we're talking about, be able to figure out how to move forward, how to get your next stripe, how to be able to test for your next belt. So as you'll see here, in every single karate journal, we break it up by program and then by belt. So for Tiny Tigers and Little Dragons, they're both expected to have 8 classes in between every single stripe. So let's say today is going to be class number 8. What I would do is I would go and talk to my instructor and say, hey, today's my class to be beginning of the class. So before we even start, before we line up, the kiddos want to be able to grab their binders or their karate journals, show the instructor. Today's going to be number 8, by the way. The instructor will be able to cut up a stripe, be able to put it on the mirror, and then we'll be able to reserve that stripe for the end of the class. Advancement is based on attendance. We obviously want the kiddos to be able to come to class. And the other part to that is obviously if they're not getting better or they're having bad behavior at home, which we don't want to reward bad behavior, that would be one thing that would be holding them back to be able to test. So let's say they ended up getting all 3 stripes, but we've noticed they really aren't progressing. It could be for a number of reasons, either focus in class, amount of practice at home, the amount of effort that they're actually putting into the technique, and then obviously if they're behaving poorly at home as well and at school, we don't want to reward that bad behavior either. So those would be like the 2 things that would prevent a kiddo from being able to test to their next belt. We do have belt exams every 3 months, by the way. So first belt exam of the year is always in February, and then 3 months from that point on. Okay, so that is how you advance and rank. Now, you'll see in here, whether depending on your age, it'll either say Little Dragon or Tiny Tiger curriculum. You'll have in the curriculum called Kihon. Your Kihon is your basics. Learning how to bow, standing in your ready position, learning your stances, learning your blocks, learning your strikes in stationary motions and in combination motions. In the next section, you'll see where it says kata. Those are your forms, choreographed routines that they'll be learning throughout their programs. And then we have their weapons, their bow, their nunchucks, and their kamas. Same idea as a kata. It's a choreographed routine with those weapons. And then we have their sparring, whether it's flag sparring or point sparring. For example, understanding the rules, able to participate properly, understands how to apply combinations while sparring, understanding more about the red zone, which we talk about during our sparring class as well. And then you'll see a section called Power Stripes. Power Stripes are characteristic behavior stripes that we help the kiddos so that way they can focus on how they're doing their techniques, meaning are they keeping their balance when they're doing their kicks, right? Behavior stripes being kindness or respect or honesty or courage, as well as focus. And then you'll see how we apply those power stripes not only in behavior at home, at school, and in karate class, but also how to apply them in their techniques as well. Like, how do I show courage when I'm doing my form? How do I show focus when I'm working with my weapon? So on and so forth. And the very last part is belt exam prep. Belt exam prep is specifically designed for that rank. So for this example, this would be for a Tiny Tiger or a Little Dragon white belt. And essentially, by the time that Tiny Tiger or Little Dragon go for their yellow belt in their program, we're asking them, okay, do you know how to bow? Do you know how to stand in your ready position? Do you know when to bow? Do you know where to bow? Do you know the first 2 stances, horse stance and front stance? Can you do at least 3 combinations that are listed on the form? Can you perform at least the first 4 steps of Taikyoku Shodan? When you're working with the bow, can you do the 4-step sequence with your bow? And then when you're sparring, are you effectively using up blocks and down blocks while you're sparring as well? So that is how we look at our karate journals. And then what we ask the students to do is, as they're getting to a point where they're thinking, hey, I know that for a fact. I'm not making mistakes on it. I'm very, very confident in that in that skill, we're going to ask the student, not the parent and not the instructor, but the student to make a check in that box on their piece of paper. And the reason why we want them to do that is so that, one, they can learn to be honest with themselves. Two, they're going to learn to hold themselves accountable. Because let's say they passed off their outside block, uchiuke. And we're in class and we're working on outside block that class, and we notice this particular kiddo is really struggling with it and they don't remember it whatsoever. They're getting super confused. The instructor can ask them, hey, can you please go get your karate journal for me? The kiddo's going to get their karate journal, and if they have it checked off, the instructor will ask them, why would you check this off if you're still struggling with it? So having a small conversation on what it means to be held accountable, be responsible, and how to be honest with themselves. So that is a brief explanation on how this works for Tiny Tigers and Little Dragons. Thanks so much, guys.